Oh, shoot.
And down to the 5-yard line, finally tackled by the defense. He is wide open in the flat, and they were able to get the ball to him.
Luckily, the Bulldogs are now in striking distance to score a touchdown.
Yes, they are, Andrew. It's first and goal from the 5, and they can get the tying touchdown. And let's tie this baby up. Tim Meyer.
Hey, is this Tim Meyer?
I said Tim Meyer.
Sweet. Hey, is the mitttv broadcasting the game tonight?
Yeah, we're broadcasting the game tonight, kid.
Tim, we're live!
Yeah, I was just wondering if you knew how to watch the game live.
Sure, I know how you can watch the game live. You got your phone on you?
Yeah.
Well, listen to this. The Mitt TV broadcast Romeo High School sporting events live so you don't have to miss a minute of the action. Just download the YouTube app on your smartphone or television. Type @the Mitt TV in the search bar. Click on our channel, then the Live tab to find all previous and upcoming live events, including sports. And don't forget to subscribe.
Oh, thanks, Tim. I really owe you... Sick.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for tuning in to this exciting TV broadcast. We'll see you tomorrow, the day after that, and the day after that, because that's the way we broadcast news, and that's the way you consume entertainment. Won't change anytime soon. For the Mitt TV, I'm Tim Meyer. Tim Meyer.
You Tim Meyer?
I said Tim Meyer.
They said you were coming.
What they say true?
See for yourself.
What's this?
They call it a podcast studio.
What the heck's a podcast studio?
It's a studio for podcasting. Superior sound, visuals, allowing the viewer to either watch or listen for an intimate experience of long-form content.
Long-form content?
Without any restrictions from any cable or network provider, there's no telling how long it can be.
Is it affordable?
You have no idea.
What's he doing?
Found him here in the studio. Recent college graduate trying to start a podcast with his friends after debating the existence of God in women's sports.
How come I can't hear him?
Steven builds a spy house through the intergalactic satellite system. Also buy my merch with my special creator code.
How long before this becomes accessible?
It already has.
If you or someone you know is looking to start a podcast for business or personal use, look no further than the Mitt TV. With hourly rates starting as low as $1.60 an hour, the Mitt TV grants access to state-of-the-art podcast studio, allowing you to record perfect audio, amazing video for your audience. Contact the Mitt TV today at mitt.tvpodcast@gmail.com. This job stinks.
meeting to order for,
The public hearing first.
Public hearing first, no.
I can't remember what date it is.
The public hearing first.
No, I know that.
May
but-
1st.
May 1st.
May 1st. Thank you.
2025.
A retiree. I have no idea what the date is. But we are going to start the meeting off with the public hearing. And anyone who would care to comment on, I'm assuming most of you are here concerning Chandler Street.
273 Chandler Street, Romeo, Michigan.
Thank you. When you speak, yes, if you would go up to the podium, identify.
Need to read this. Give him that so he can read it.
This is concerning 273 Chandler Street in Romeo. It is seeking a special land use in accordance with ordinance 482. That are allowed in the R1 single family. The ordinance allows for bed and breakfast establishments under special land use. This will be an existing residential structure on Chandler Street. Your name?
Melissa Felino from 253 Chandler Street.
All right, if you would, keep it 3 to 5 minutes.
Thanks. Good evening. My name is Melissa Felino, and I live directly next door to the proposed B&B property. Last July, the residents of our neighborhood came together and provided substantive feedback in order to help provide the reasoning for denying this SLU request. Our letter from last year is included in your board packet for record. We have also written another letter, also in your packet, to address this instance of the SLU application. This evening, we are here again to consider a slightly modified SLU application for a B&B at 273 Chandler Street, in the heart of one of Romeo's nicest neighborhoods. Many neighborhood residents, like my husband, who is away on military duty, are unable to attend this public hearing. Nevertheless, 26 signed our letter of opposition to the proposed B&B. This alone should be enough of a reason for this commission to deny the SLU application. If the 26 opposing voices in this neighborhood are ignored tonight, there will have been no point in even having this public hearing. The Planning Commission exists to determine whether or not issues comply with ordinance. Further, the people on this commission serve as the appointees of our elected officials who ultimately represent the constituents of this village, the residents. This public hearing exists to hear our side of this story and provide feedback that the Planning Commission should most certainly take into deep consideration. The 26 people who this proposed B&B will most immediately negatively affect have spoken, and we do not feel this SLU should be approved. All 8 SLU standards need to be individually approved to grant this SLU, and this plan hardly articulates how the B&B will be in compliance. Most importantly, this B&B will ruin the harmony of our neighborhood. There are families in this neighborhood who purchased their homes after the middle school was demolished. We were attracted to a quiet neighborhood where we thought it would be a great place to raise a family. It is unreasonable to expect that we should be agreeable to a business operation opening its doors just because Chandler Street used to be busier with school operations. Further, school traffic and B&B traffic are not the same. Tell me you would be okay with the transient traffic of a 10-bedroom B&B operating its doors next to your backyard where your kids and grandkids play every day. It doesn't work. This will not be harmonious with our neighborhood in any way, so please do not allow this into our neighborhood and diminish our quality of life. The standards that deal with neighborhood harmony should be our call and nobody else's. If we, the tax-paying residents of this neighborhood, say there will be no harmony, it's the duty of the Planning Commission to reflect our view on those standards and nobody else's. Please ensure you put yourselves in our shoes before casting your votes And please do not prioritize a single person's desire to make a profit over the quality of life of 13 households and their families. In addition, please remember your duty to ensure your votes represent the best interests of the village and not your own personal interests. Thank you. My husband also did provide a less than 3-minute little clip that I'd like to play, if that's okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Franco Felino, and I live next to 273 Chandler Street. This special land use application should be denied. The application lacks clear content as to how the proposed bed and breakfast will comply with all 6 B&B criteria as well as all 8 special land use standards. Section 46-653 of Romeo's Municipal Code states that a written document should be submitted by the applicant that responds to each of the standards. The applicant's attempt to comply with this requirement is insufficient, providing minimal verbiage for each requirement. Standards A, E, and H deal with whether or not the SLU will be in harmony with the neighborhood. If approved, the residents of this neighborhood will be the people living with the nuisance of this B&B, nobody else. For a multitude of reasons, we do not feel this B&B will be harmonious with our neighborhood. Put yourselves in our shoes. Would you want to live next to a 10-bedroom business operation? Would you want to raise your kids next to all the transient vehicle and pedestrian traffic this will attract? These are easy no answers if you are thinking about us, the tax-paying voting primary residents of this village. I don't see any way this B&B can comply with Standard B, which deals with ensuring vehicular traffic not becoming more hazardous than is normal for our neighborhood. The plans for this B&B suggest a parking lot larger than the village post offices. This will most certainly negatively change the traffic situation on Chandler Street, especially since the only sidewalk is on the same side as the proposed B&B. There are over 20 children that call Chandler Street their home. These children ride their bikes and walk up and down the street every day. If this board wants to ensure that child vehicle interfacing is kept to a minimum, as Standard B states, do not approve the SLU. Standard D addresses the SLU not posing any unreasonable effect to adjacent land value. As an adjacent land owner, I will tell you that I would not have purchased my home had there been a 10-bedroom bed and breakfast operating next door. I think it is also reasonable to believe that most people would feel the same way, especially if you're raising a family. This SLU will most certainly have a negative effect on my property's value. Standard F requires the necessity of public convenience in the proposed location. This neighborhood is not in need of a B&B. Our letter in your packet, signed by 26 people, is your concrete evidence as to why public convenience does not exist in our neighborhood. Lastly, the first requirement of a B&B states that no construction can take place, specifically for rental purposes. 273 Chandler Street is the shell of a historic single-family home. It is uninhabited and unfinished. It requires complete restoration. Construction will be required in order to do so. Denying this reality will be a disservice to our neighborhood. The reasons needed to deny this application are obvious. This bed and breakfast will be a nuisance and it will lower our quality of life for the neighborhood. This application needs to be denied again and restricted from future applications. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Oh, I'm sorry.
Hi, my name is Anne Marie Boyce. I live locally and also happen to sit on the Bruce Township Planning Commission. I realize that Romeo has a bed and breakfast ordinance, but your ordinance makes it clear that any such bed and breakfast must be in harmony with the neighborhood in which it is situated. You decide what's in harmony with the neighborhood on behalf of the residents of the village, not the applicant and not your planner. I also happen to own a lake house in Lexington, Michigan, which, while on Lake Huron, something of a boating community, also has a large historic downtown area. By way of comparison, in the village of Lexington, there are currently 4 B&Bs. Lexington House Bed and Breakfast, it's on M25, Main Street. There are 5 rooms. Butler House Bed and Breakfast, M25, Main Street, 4 rooms. Inn in the Garden, M90, which is Peck Road, 4 rooms. Lake Huron Lodge, M90, Peck Road, 5 rooms. Chandler Street is purely residential in nature, certainly more so now with the school being demolished and the likelihood of that acreage being sold for a park or more single-family homes. Simply put, Chandler Street is not M53, which is Romeo's Main Street. The proposal for Chandler Street is, as I last reviewed the plans, either for 9 or 10 guest rooms at best, with 20 guest parking spots. There appears to be a proposed outdoor pavilion with a small kitchen area, grilling area, a carriage house with ancillary bathrooms. In the main house, it shows bar areas, a wine room, a game room, and a roof terrace. In my view, this is not a traditional B&B by virtue of its size alone, and it seems very much to me to be a commercial enterprise. I hope that you please think very carefully about the implications of what's being proposed before approving a special land use. If for some reason you find you must approve a special land use, I highly recommend that you do so with specific conditions or limitations, which is frequently done in Bruce Township, of course with the applicant's agreement. Thank you.
Rob Wing from 260 Church Street, Planning Commission, residents. The intent of this SLU application is inconsistent with the Village of Romeo Master Plan by allowing a large-scale business operation, B&B, in a low-density R1 single-family residential district. This conflicts with the action strategy listed on page 39 of Romeo's current master plan to preserve and enhance the unique character of Romeo's single-family neighborhoods. This excerpt is from Chapter 4 of the master plan, titled Livability in Great Neighborhoods, featuring the homes at the three-way intersection of Church Street and Chandler. Fate would have it that is the exact neighborhood that would be negatively impacted by the presence of a commercial business disguised as a B&B. Allowing this business to occupy as a B&B would not only be very inconsistent with the Village of Romeo's master plan and the harmony of our neighborhood, but clearly demonstrates the following: increased traffic and parking space confusion for pedestrians, including youngsters, with possibility resulting with injury. This operation seems to be a last deep effort of a property that has not been able to be sold as a residential home. We should not be subjected to living next to a large-scale operation such as the one proposed in this SLU operation. With respect to the incomplete SLU application, the lack of public transparency surrounding the project's ultimate intentions, and the direct contradiction of the village master plan, we request the Planning Commission to either vote no on granting the special land use for the B&B at 273 Chandler Street, or make a motion to postpone consideration of this case at least 2 months after the Village of Romeo adopts updated SLU and B&B ordinance, amending the language as necessary in which an updated new special land use application is subject to compliance of associated ordinances and respective standards and requirements. Thank you very much.
My name is Kim White, and I reside at 290 South Bailey Street. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to take a few moments to talk about something that could be a turning point for our town. The proposal to open a bed and breakfast here in Romeo at 273 Chandler Street. As someone who has lived in the village for years, my whole life actually, since I was 3, and someone who's proud to call Romeo my home, I can honestly say we have something very special here. You feel it in the way when you walk down the street, how everyone waves. It's just such a wonderful hometown. In the care that we take with our historical buildings and in the small town warmth that you feel, it's just not fake. But we also have to recognize something else. Romeo needs a place for our visitors to stay. We host events, we draw people in through our festivals, our charm, and our traditions. But right now, when someone falls in love with our town and wants to spend more than just a few hours here, they have to leave. There simply is nowhere for them to stay. That's where a bed and breakfast comes in. And now, it's not just any business, it's a well-kept, thoughtful, run B&B that reflects the values and characters of our community. It's not about bringing a big development or changing who we are. It's about welcoming people who we want to experience what we already have. It's about giving them a place to stay so they can shop in our stores, eat in our restaurants, and walk on our streets. Not just for a day, but for a weekend or even longer. Let's be honest, more visitors means more foot traffic for local businesses, it means more jobs, it means more opportunities for our young people who want to stay and work here. It's a boost that Romeo needs and one that we deserve. But even beyond the economic sense, a bed and breakfast sends a message that Romeo is ready to share its story with others, that we're proud of who we are, what we've built, and what we're becoming. So I hope you'll join me in supporting this proposal, because this isn't just about opening a business. It's about opening the door to a brighter future for the town of Romeo. Thank you.
One moment. I'm sorry, what was your name again, please?
Kim White.
Kim White?
Kim White is in the color, yep.
All right.
Hello, Commission. My name is Richard Corey. I live at 322 Chandler. I just wanted to pick on something that Melissa said, that there really is a big difference between the junior high or the middle school that was there and the bed and breakfast. The middle school, when it was there, in the morning, the buses would drop off the kids in front of the school, and then at night they dropped them off like at 2:30. Or they would pick up the kids and take them out. And each one of those events were 15 minutes. That's all it was. 15 minutes in the morning, 15 minutes at night. So that was, you know, I know people that never even knew the buses came there because they worked. Most of the people didn't even know the buses came. So that's one of the big differences. And then the other difference is the summer. You know, at the end of May, beginning of June, school's done for 3 months. So we were just living, you know, next to a building, a historical building. So now, as opposed to what they want to do now, it's going to be 24/7, 365 days a year. It's nothing like the school, and they're also going to have. I wrote some notes here on my hand. And they're going to have 20 parking lots. The pub doesn't even have 20. The bank doesn't have 20. So 20 parking spots is an awful lot. So I would say, you know, think it over. You guys got a big decision, and I do agree that, you know, think if this was in your yard or in your neighborhood, you would probably vote no. Thank you.
Joan Cummins, 322 Benjamin Street. I'm here to support the Chandler Street property, the Gray House. What a huge investment by a gentleman who saw in Romeo what we all love, its historical charm and quaintness. I love that there will be attention paid to maintaining the property's historical integrity. At a time when the village is struggling to stay afloat, this opportunity seems like a godsend. The Gray House, with its charm and amenities, will certainly make Romeo a destination spot and draw people to our restaurants and shops. Please reaffirm this investment in the village. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Amy MacDonald. I do not live in the village. I live in Oakland Township. My children were raised here, went through Romeo schools. I'm a small business owner in town. My mom lives in the village, so I spend a lot of time here. I come before you tonight as someone who deeply believes in Romeo's potential and Romeo's charm. Today I want to speak to you about an opportunity that could breathe new life into our local economy, preserve our heritage, and welcome the world to experience the beauty that we all call home. I'm talking about bringing the bed and breakfast to Romeo. Now, I know the idea of change can raise questions, but let me assure you this is not a call for transformation, but I see it as a call for celebration. Celebration of who we are, of what we offer, and of what makes Romeo so special. This town is a gem with historic streets, friendly neighbors, quaint shops, and beautiful surroundings. Romeo has all the makings of a beloved destination. And yet there's one glaring gap. We have no place for visitors to stay overnight, not a single one. Well, we have one, but I'm not even sure that you can book a room. I think it's like a long stay, the Bates Motel, I call it, but okay. That aside, how can we invite tourists to enjoy our peach festivals, our antique stores, the local artistry if they have no place to rest their heads? A bed and breakfast isn't just a business. It's a home that welcomes strangers as friends. It's a porch light left on for the weary traveler. It's the warm meal shared across cultures. And here in Romeo, it would be a beacon for heritage tourism, weekend getaways, and economic revitalization. Imagine couples visiting for a romantic retreat, families discovering our small town charm, travelers stopping to explore the trails and history. These guests bring more than suitcases. They bring support for our local shops, cafes, and artisans. Every dollar spent here circulates throughout this community. But more than a bed and breakfast, more than that, a bed and breakfast gives us a way to tell our story, to share what we love about Romeo with people from all walks of life. It strengthens our identity, not by changing it, but by opening it up to others. This is our chance to grow thoughtfully and responsibly, with care, with community input, and with a vision that honors our past while looking to the future. So I urge you, let us open our doors. Let us take this next step together. Let us say yes to a bed and breakfast in Romeo, and yes to a future where our town thrives. Not just for us, but for generations to come. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Sharon Smith. I'm a resident of Romeo. I've stayed at a lot of bed and breakfasts throughout the United States, probably a lot have. Not one, and many of those include mansions out in western Massachusetts, big old captain's homes and whatnot. They don't have bars, they don't have tasting rooms, they don't have outdoor cooking, they don't have 20 parking spots. I think the gray house is beautiful, it's gorgeous, it needs to be saved, but it's obviously been allowed to go to rack and ruin with a long-term plan of doing something like this. It's called demolition through neglect. And I think that's what's happened with the interior of this place. That doesn't mean that it needs to be built as a bed and breakfast. Bed and breakfasts have a great place, but along a main street, as another speaker had said, not in a residential area. It just doesn't fit. And if you look at the layout here, this is going to be a party palace. It's going to be noisy. And it's already been said in last year that there wasn't going to be an on-site manager here. Now there is, but an on-site manager is not the same as someone who lives in their home and opens their home. This is something that's being renovated purposely as a bed and breakfast. And I just don't think it fits in that neighborhood. And again, as many people said, think of it as if it was in your backyard or if it was your neighbor. Would you want to be living like this, especially with little kids around? You don't always know what kind of people are going to be renting at these. Unfortunately, I've had the opportunity to be forced to look at some of the things that happen with human trafficking, and some of what's happening, and is happening in my old town of Salem, which they're starting to relook at their bed and breakfasts in their residential neighborhoods or the Airbnbs, because there's just an influx of people who are renting a room. And as a person renting a room, you have no idea what these people are like, but they're setting it up as basically a 1 or 2 night prostitution room. We don't know what's going to happen with this, especially if there's not someone who's actually living there all the time. I just think there's so much to think about and look at. And you've got a big decision, but I think you should obviously listen to the residents and look at the location too. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I'm the clerk of the village, Clerk Jamie Lucero. I received communication from Paul and Nikki Giles, 245 Church, so I'm gonna read their correspondence. Dear Village of Romeo, we are unable to attend the meeting on May 1st, scheduled to discuss special land use at 273 Chandler Street. We do want it to be known that we are in favor of this proposed bed and breakfast and feel that you should approve the special land use for this application. We feel it is the best case scenario for a structure of this size and the vast scope of renovations. It should prove to be a welcome addition to our charming village, a unique place for visitors to gather as they visit and celebrate a myriad of lives' special occasions. Sorry. A little hard to read the handwriting. We have watched the transformation of the gray house exterior and inner framework with awe. It has been brought back from the brink of complete decay, and we should applaud Mr. Wells for his willingness to make this investment and continue to save the grand old house for future generations. Waiting for a single family to take on the vast investment that it will take seems a folly. Perhaps several condos could be created, but I think the impact on the neighborhood would be more keenly felt. A bed and breakfast would mainly be busy on some weekends and holidays. We will need to remain open to our creative solutions to some of our town's large structures if they are to be saved. Please grant the special land use for the development of the bed and breakfast. It seems all of the criteria has been met and there is a need in the community. It saves a lovely structure and the gray house will live on in its next iteration. Personally, we can't wait to help fill it and share our town with visitors. Thank you for your consideration.
Good evening. My name is Shelley. I'm a resident of the Village of Romeo. I come here knowing and in hearing all of the people that spoke and knowing that they have some facts and they have some emotion, just like all of us do. We each have our own perspective. I wholeheartedly agree with most of what I heard, and so I'm not going to read you the 3 to 5 minutes that I think you've heard it, but I am going to highlight some of the key points that I think are interesting that I had in common with a lot of the folks here that were speaking. For instance, I don't live in the exact vicinity of those 26 residents. I live in a different area of the village. However, I think we forget how small the village is, and that is still my neighborhood. I can walk there. I do walk there. We bike ride. So when you think about those 26 people, it's not just them. We're only 2 square miles, and it will impact all of us. Don't forget that we are all neighbors. I know that the bed and breakfast is required to benefit the residents in the community. I don't see the benefit. We do not have people clamoring to stay in residential neighborhoods. We live in a metropolis. We are so small, it is not hard to drive away from here and find a hotel. I really don't believe that'll be a benefit. The simple fact is it cannot be constructed to be a bed and breakfast. That's a fact. And if you choose to ignore that fact, then you're choosing to ignore your obligation. And I know there's a concern about what constructed means, but if you look in the dictionary, it's easy. create, make, become, build something, or put together different parts to form something whole. Therefore, it is being constructed to be a bed and breakfast, and you can't do that. So please keep that in mind. And let's face it, it's a beautiful building. It's not going to stop at being a bed and breakfast. It's going to be a venue space, and we know it. And to say it's not is putting your head in the sand, and to think that, oh, it'll be manageable, or, you know, it won't be that. It will. It's a beautiful site. It will. I have a home that is a decent size. I put in a nice driveway, big, long paved driveway. I'm starting to think I should open a bed and breakfast in my home, and it's in residential. Now, it sounds like people don't mind bed and breakfast, but not in residential. On Main Street, on 32, somewhere when people come to town, they're in the areas with the shops and the things that they need to be by. Not in the neighborhoods where the children are, where the schools are, where our elderly are, downtown. You also cannot sell alcohol at a bed and breakfast. And if it turns into, small gatherings, I can imagine there will be. You also can't have separate cooking spaces in a bed and breakfast. However, this has a cooking space in the pavilion. So there's a lot of information here. Some of it's emotional, some of it's fact. Who will benefit from it? The business owners. And that's great. Then put a bed and breakfast down by the businesses, not where our people live. In the end, I would say if I came through town and saw that bed and breakfast, I go, wow, that's beautiful. And I'm glad I don't live by it, especially with children. And don't forget, this beautiful building went into decay at the same hands that's trying to save it. Thank you.
Hello, board. Thank you very much for letting me speak. Tom Stevens, 222 Prospect. I live rather close to the property. Many of you, I would like to think, remember that I had a bed and breakfast, Brab House Bed and Breakfast on Main Street. And my lovely wife is watching me right now, so I have to say some certain things that are correct. I will state that a bed and breakfast does create opportunity. Our bed and breakfast, we had business travelers, we had families that were having weddings and parties and showers in a small building. Now, for those of you who may not know where the Brab House is, it's the large green Italianate on South Main, on the east side. And it did bring a lot of business to the community. We had some things we wanted to do. After time, we're not able to do or allowed to do, but we did survive for 10 years. One of the best things that worked out for us was the fact that I started soliciting business travelers, which they were there to sleep, they were there to go to their work, they visited the local facilities, they went to the bars and restaurants, and then they went home. The parties that we had at the time were very small, but I had residential people behind me, next to me. In fact, Paul lived next to me, who was the village president, and everything went smoothly there. It does bring prosperity to the village. And again, with the people that, the business guys especially, I kind of used to tease them when we solicit them in, but I would tell them, look, you're 2 blocks down the street from all the restaurants. You can have a couple beers and not go to jail. And that, everybody thought that was kind of funny, but it beefed up our business. I can see the building pretty much from my house right now. And I do support Dale's effort to go forward with this. So I did not read anything she asked me to read. I'm going to hear it when I get home. Can you hear her? Yes, you probably can hear her now. But anyway, it can be definitely. We had a lady that opened up a Red Hat Lady store, and there were other stores that actually opened up because of what we had there. And the Red Hat Lady store had to close after we ended, the facility. But I believe in the prospect of having the B&Bs in a community like this, because it does bring much more prosperity to the community. So, thank you.
Hi there. I'm Tom Ridley. I live at 307 Chandler, and I spoke here last year on the same topic. I live one house away from the house in question, and I've known the property my entire life. Last year I mentioned that Romeo's had several B&Bs in the past. There has never been an issue with B&Bs, and that was according to Cindy Wilson, who of course has retired today, and she's been here for quite a long time. Now, I have spoken to some of my neighbors. They are concerned about this becoming more than just what is being asked to be done, a B&B. I share those concerns. I don't want to see it become anything more than what it's been licensed to be. But I have to live by ordinances. Everybody in this room has to live by ordinances and rules. That's what they're there for. If they're exceeded, they need to be stopped. But the other thing is, this is not the ideal thing I want. It's on my street. I would like to see a family with deep pockets buy that house and fix it up to the finest home in Romeo. It's not going to happen. At least it hasn't. So I'm not expecting it to happen. Then the other thing is that Dale Wells, when he got that house, it was a wreck. I was on the HDC. I don't want to see anything destroyed, any houses destroyed. When I saw that house, I didn't think it could be saved. Dale Wells saved that house. I don't know if anybody else would have. Now, when he bought the house, or got the house, it already had a parking for 10 or 20 cars. And I know because I saw them all being towed away by the wrecker when he got the house. So I just want to add that, well, this isn't my first choice. I think it's the best we have to live with. Thank you.
Nathan Bartholomew, 137 Pleasant Street. Thanks for allowing all of us to come up here and speak. I'd like to thank Dale Wells for the hundreds of thousands of dollars that he put into this home to bring it back to where it is. It's beautiful, and I'm all for. So last year when I was campaigning, canvassing neighborhoods, I was going down Fairgrove Street, and I got done talking to one resident, and I was on my way to the next house, and he said, "Sir, no one lives there. That's an Airbnb." I said, "Oh," and I remembered that. So I just went to his house, and then the other neighbor on the other side, I asked him, as an Airbnb, do you have problems with people here, making noise and stuff? And they're like, no, they're actually all nice. They're nice people to come. People don't come to party at Airbnbs. They come for events. I can see people coming for like a wedding at the Abbey, walking down there safely and walking back when it's over. If I owned a business in town, a shop or a restaurant, I would love it because they're going to go shop. And as far as children go, when I was a kid, we didn't go near that building. It was a mental institution called the Haven Farm. And the screams that came from that building were horrendous. And they had an enclosed front porch, and you could see them behind the glass. And we would walk across the street because we were afraid, man, what would happen if somebody gets out? I see you laughing because it was a scary place. So I think it's a great idea, and I think it'll bring business, and it'll cause people to say, hey, go visit Romeo. You know, we stay at this place, you know, go experience the Tulsa Street or Labor Day Peach Festival. So I would just ask that you vote in support of this SLU. Thank you.
I just have to say, I was the neighbor that lived behind the Brab house. Hi. For the 10 years, and it was an absolute pleasure. The people that came to the bed and breakfast, they were creating their own family memories and business memories, and we thought it was wonderful. My parents, I live there by myself now, but when my parents were alive and they lived there, they would sit on the back patio and they would say, isn't that wonderful? Look at the bride and groom. It was not a nuisance whatsoever. It was actually a pleasure. So.
Hi, I'm Tim Billow from the Hollister Street, also president of the Historical Society, but I'm speaking for myself, not the society. I support Dale's effort to do what he's done with that house. I just can't imagine anybody else coming along and saving it, because everybody here that has any, it was ready to fall over. So I mean, I understand what he's put into it, understand his plans. I don't know what the regulations are, so I won't speak to whether he complies with what's there. I hope he does. I want him to do it. So whatever he has to do to comply, let him do it. And I understand the neighbors who are opposed to it. I guess if I was living right next door, I don't know how I live on West Hollister, so I can see it quite clearly. I understand their feelings, and I respect their feelings. I just want that house to be saved, and Dale came along with a great idea, I think. Unfortunately, some people don't agree with it, but I wish him well. You guys have a decision to make. Do it. I hope it's a positive one for all of Romeo. Thank you.
I'm going to speak as a resident now. My name is Jamie Lucero. I only ask that this board, I'm indifferent about this issue, but I ask that you guys, as a board, as the dais, allow data and information to drive your decision-making. Do not let opinion, do not let conjecture, do not let seemingly scary facts drive you. Please allow data and information to drive your decision-making, please. Thank you.
Hi, thanks for listening to all of us again. My name is Ashley Gotchel. I live at 245 Chandler. I live 2 houses south of the proposed B&B. And as a person who works in data, actually, in the tech world, I would say that this is a very different situation. Opinion, why would we have a vote if opinion wasn't important? Why would we have, you guys, in the village on a board for us not to have a voice? That's the whole point. So that said, I'll get with just my quick points here. We have, just to put it in perspective, 5 of the houses, just on one side of Chandler alone, have kids aged 10 to newborn that all play with each other on this street, that all run over to the green space. We all, enjoy the quiet street because we know that there's not a lot of traffic, which is one of our major concerns, I would say, is lowered security, increased traffic. My 3 kids, we have 3 kids on the other side, 2 kids, and then another 3 kids right next to that house. And all the kids are riding bikes, they're skateboarding, they're rollerblading. Our neighbors across the street gave our kids a bunch of rollerblades that we plan to share with all the neighborhood kids. It's really important to us that we don't lower our security measures on the street. It's a quiet street for a reason. And I'll say, my house is small. We don't have room for a lot of our visitors in a big family. my family comes and visits and stays at a hotel in Rochester, and they love it. You know, and they come to Romeo every day and go to the coffee shop, you know, and, you know, go to, you know, whatever's going on that weekend. So just to put that into another light of something that actually occurs on somebody who actually lives next door to the proposed bed and breakfast. And, you know, you may not live next door, and your kids may not be young anymore, and which is that's a different experience for those of us that do still have very small children growing up on this street. So it sounds like a super cute and super fun opportunity, and even a very lucrative one, but is it the right one for our historic street? You know, even hearing, you know, businessmen or business people coming to stay that's great and all, but it's still gonna make a difference. It's still gonna change our street a bit. You know, and I don't know if it's gonna be the positive move. Of course, you know, I would even argue that an Airbnb is not the same as a bed and breakfast. I saw 10 rooms on the plan, you know, saying that it's gonna be 5. I don't know if that's the case because we've been down this road before last year. But in any case, just to put in perspective, you know, these younger families who are still having children and want to be able to just let their kids run up and down the street like you were able to when you were a kid, and not have, you know, increased traffic. Because that street is, you know, busy enough, and we're lucky for what we have, and I would hate to have that change for our future generations here in Romeo. So thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Hello, my name is Susan Kane. I live at 225 North Rawls, right across from the Village Park, which has a lot of children in it. Doesn't bother me at all. Doesn't bother the children at all. I'm in favor of this bed and breakfast. I also was former owner of Town Hall Antiques. I know how many people come to town and are looking for a place to stay other than what's available to them right now. I think I'm also the treasurer of the Historical Society. I'm sorry I didn't write anything down. I really didn't think I was going to speak, but I have to. It's going to boil right out. I love what Dale has done with the house. He's sunk a lot of money into it. Obviously, he would like to get his money back out of it. He has tried to sell it. It's an awfully big house for just a single family to move into. So he took a chance. I think he should be allowed in some way to regroup this. He has tried to sell it. I don't see where you think a bed and breakfast is going to bring bad people to town or scary people that might harm your children. We're not talking about a Motel 6, and we're not down on 8 Mile Road. That being said, I don't think it's a cheap place to spend the night, so I think you're going to get higher-end people. I think you're mostly going to see them on the weekends. I think it would be an asset to the Abbey as well, which I know they probably are struggling to get their money back out of that. But these people have taken a chance and put a lot of money into Romeo, and I think we should give them a chance to give it back. I, as a resident, I don't have a problem with a bed and breakfast next to me. Like I said, I'm across from the Village Park, and there's a lot of stuff that goes on there. But that's what we have a police force for. That's what we have neighbors for. If you see something going wrong, you bring it up. You say something about it, and it doesn't happen anymore, hopefully. I don't know what else I can tell you except for the fact that I am for it for historical reasons and for the fact that I think he's done a wonderful job with it, and I think the man deserves to try to regroup some of his money. And it's not in anybody's expense, I don't think. The neighbors, I don't think will be affected at all. I'm not affected by living across from the park with the extra traffic. I do have a lot of people parking in front of my house, but, you know, that went with the territory. So I would like you to consider if you have to put some type of stipulations on it to make it more favorable to the neighborhood, but I don't see it as being a danger in any way, shape, or form, or a lot of traffic. I mean, people usually go on the weekends to bed and breakfasts. And we've got so much here in this town to show people, and we're always trying to get more people here. But they've got no place to stay, so they have to go to Rochester, which is booming, I'm sure. But that's all I got to say. I hope you vote in favor of Dale's proposal. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Brian Rosso. I live on North Bailey Street in Romeo. And again, I'm not here to rehash everything that's been shared so far, but just really hearing everyone and being a resident of the village. I know for myself, I would not want to live next to a bed and breakfast. And I think there's been a lot of good points here where you don't know the coming and going. I like to believe the best in people too, but I turn the news on every night. That is not the case. Let's be honest. People have, you think they're nice, but you don't know. I have 2 kids, you know, I'd hate for anything to happen to go sideways. I'm sure, you know, I've heard people talk, I'm sure when people moved in with the intention, it was residential. And this is gonna take away from that. And I'm afraid to say, I bet you people are gonna leave Romeo if this is the case. And do we really wanna do that? Do we want the community to prosper? I think it's an easy, hopefully an easy decision for all of you on the board tonight to make the right decision and to think of the residents that live in Romeo. Again, I'm not opposed to a B&B, but I think it's about location. And in a residential neighborhood, I can't ever imagine in 1,000 years that would be allowed. If it happened on my street, I'd be shocked. And you know, we even had discussions with a business moving on my street, and luckily the community spoke up, and you know, it turned into a photo studio. That's very minimal in use, so the neighborhood agreed on that. And Sharon, you brought a good point too. You know, trafficking is a real thing. And, you know, I hate to think about it, but I know it's true. I know if you call any, you know, local organizations that are involved with trafficking, they can probably share a lot of stories about what does happen. And, you know, we don't want that in town either. So I thank you for your time. I appreciate it, and hopefully just think of the residents.
Good evening. My name is Matthew Kaufman. I'm a village resident. I want to start off by expressing my strong support for the neighborhood letter that the commission received in the packet and my deep concern about the proposed bed and breakfast business. As a family man raising young children, I chose this neighborhood specifically because of its quiet, close-knit residential area, a place where children can safely ride bikes, play outside, and grow up surrounded by neighbors who know and look out for each other. This proposal is not harmonious with that vision. Introducing a transient business like this in the heart of our neighborhood will bring a constant flow of unfamiliar traffic, noise, and disruption. It's not the same as a homeowner renting out a spare room occasionally. This is a commercial scale operation being proposed by someone who doesn't live in the property. There's no investment in the fabric of the neighborhood, just an interest and profit at the community's expense. Allowing a business like this in a family-oriented residential area sets a unsatisfactory precedent. Nothing good can come from inviting this level of turnover and activity into the middle of a neighborhood where people are raising families. The impact on adjacent homes and the safety, privacy, and peace of the residents is too great to ignore. If the board does choose to approve this SLU, I sincerely hope that they put stringent conditions placed on the operation to protect the neighborhood, especially the families living closest to the site. That's only fair because once this is approved, the people who live with the consequences every day are not the ones sitting on the board, they're the families living right next door. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Okay, we have,
I noticed someone speak twice, so I had one more thought I wanted to share. Last July, when we all met here, if my memory serves me correct, one person spoke in opposition. The folks who showed up this evening to speak for this SLU do not live on the street. I understand their points. Some of them are positive, and I can sympathize with them. But the people who showed up in July and the folks who are here, who can physically be here this evening and sign that letter, are the people who are going to be directly affected on the street, and that is so important. I'm getting emotional about it because I care. Last July, please remember that none of these people in support were here. If they feel so strongly about it and if they were so inclined to speak for it, they should have been here, but they weren't. I think when they noticed that the neighborhood really showed up to speak their opinions and concerns, I think that nudged some folks to show up this evening, and I think that that's worth considering. Thank you again.
All right. Okay, we've been at it about an hour here, so I want to.
You can't stop them. Can't stop.
It's very quick. I'm gonna skip
No, go ahead. You're good.
I'm going to skip my letter. It's already been echoed. Lindsay Leonard, village resident. There's a property for sale at Church in Chandler. My husband and I are very interested. We've held off on an offer. We don't want to live by this. Thank you.
Delora, 122 Rawls.
Hold on one second. I'm sorry.
My time. Take it. I've been through this before.
Can you repeat your name, please?
Bob Delora.
Thank you.
I thought that name was known in town. God.
I'm new.
All right. Businessman, realtor, and I think I have a pretty good track record of what I've done in this village since 2010 or whatever it is. But I'm here tonight to speak, and I've been following it. And let me just say one thing. I come from a city where I was very involved. 12 years of the time I was there, 4 terms, city commissioner, mayor pro tem, and mayor. So when I hear these type of events happening, I like to be part of them, just to hear, because I know, sitting on that side of the table, what it's like and the decisions you have to make. You have a nice group of people here tonight, which I consider 3 different groups: residents, business, and NIMBYs. And it's always the group that you want to focus on that doesn't, to me, understand the big picture. Now, there's some very good points that were made tonight as far as, the necessity of having people come into town, because as a realtor, you want people to move here. The downtown, I always supported it because it really needs a little more vibrant activity going on. And that seems to be going that way. I will have to say that the town has really improved over the last few years that I've been around here. But my concern tonight is that you really have an audience that's out here that I'm grasping doesn't understand a use that has to get a SLUP, the special land use permit. Because in that SLUP, as I'm concerned with and familiar with, is where all the teeth are. All the teeth that protect what it is they're concerned about, all the ifs. It's the same thing that we used to get, and we didn't have a lot of bed and breakfasts where I come from, which is Birmingham. And you had those concerns with people that had uses, got permits for swimming pools. Swimming pools can cause just as much concern as what it is that is on the agenda tonight. So my concern is that, and I, support you guys, and definitely I would like to see that pass because it will affect the vibrant community that's here, to make that decision for the large audience, because you have a smaller audience here tonight. There's more people that are out there that need what it is that they should have. Thank you for the time.
Thank you.
I'm Dale Wells, and I'm the landowner in question. I have 8 or 9 letters. I don't want to take the time to read all of them, but I want you to know that there is a lot of people in the community that I've spoken to, and I'll submit all of these, but I don't think we should take the time today to read them, but these are all in support. I think what's most important here is that we have items that were talked about that you wanted the last time we were here. We've given them all to you. We believe we're back here again. It's been stretched out for darn near a year now. And there'll be a full-time family living there that's gonna manage this. It's their home. I'm hoping to find somebody that has enough money to be a partner. And there, in the whole country, there's a group of these people that run bed and breakfasts. And there are hosts that are looking for bed and breakfasts to operate in communities like Romeo. And it's there. I tried to get a couple that has a bed and breakfast in Lakeville. And that's really what I had been looking at and saw what was happening. Now, again, it's on a piece of land maybe twice the size of what we have here, but they're not in the downtown area either. And the whole part of what the idea is that they come in and they come into their home. And the people that are coming there, I stay in them. It's really a charming experience. If you haven't, you should. Hotels are just totally different to me. Now, if I want to go and have room service and all that stuff, that's a different story. But to come into a town and go visit the town and enjoy what they have to offer, you want to be in the community. You want to be part of it. There's people that want this to operate, and that's what their passion is. And the people in Lakeville taught me this. And I have people that are waiting for this to get approved so that they can come in and become part of it. And I just hope you take into consideration, I do understand the neighbors' feelings, and it's also a special land use in a residential area. And if you knew what these, I mean, you think back to people that know what that house was. It's been 3 different very controversial businesses, big businesses. There was 40 people living in that house at one time. All of the documentation that's in the basement of the archives of the village,
Library.
you know, the library. I mean, they have every single 10-year period of our census, all these people that were there. The house should have been torn down. But when I went to the village to tear it down and split it in half and sell it off so that I could try and recoup as much as I could, he said, no, it's a historical home. So I had no choice but to go in and make it work. And the architects and the engineers, and I had a good friend of mine in there that's a big builder, one of the biggest in the state, and he had to leave because he didn't feel comfortable, because builders don't understand what it takes to renovate something of that consequence. There's a lot of people in the community that have been in there and supported what we've been doing. I dare to say that if we would have gone in the condition the house was, and came here and said, look, we want to build a bed and breakfast there, and we'll save the house. The people that lived on the south side would have probably been thankful. I can't speak for them, but in the condition that it was, and the school being there, that isn't a 15-minute period when that school was changing. I owned the house for a long time, and there was nothing I could do because it was so jammed up with traffic. I helped a man out, and he just didn't do what he said he was going to do, and I ended up with the house. This is an emotional thing for me too. This man's been in my life for darn near 20 years now. It's happened, and that house has been haunting me for 20 years. And you know, if I didn't have the money in it, I'd come back to want to tear it down, because this is the best use for it. And we'll manage it, and that's what your department is, the police department. the building department, you have a big staff at the village, it's gonna be run right, long after we're gone. And if it isn't, it's because you're not watching it. And the neighbors are gonna watch it. You know, they're gonna call. The woman to the north, Mary and her husband, told me personally, if I can say what they said, they would not have bought that property because of this house if they would, until I bought it, until they knew that I owned it. Both of the houses on both sides got very good prices for them because of the condition of this house and all of the things that this house was used for over the last 100 years. You know, there's only like 3 residential uses in 150 years in that house. The rest of the time, one of the things was that you would come and bring your daughters off during the Depression to be taught how to be hired help in homes. And then they'd be placed in homes. And then, I mean, it was, for a time period, it was for, at that time, they were described, we call them challenged spectrum, what different descriptions. But back then, that was, they did a good job with that for a while. All this is in the history of this home. And then it became, because that started falling apart, the Haven House, which is, I mean, people came into the house when we've been doing it, told us all of these stories of what happened there. The kids walking between the school and so on. And the village taking that piece of property in between the 2 houses that should have gone back to the property owners. That's what it was deeded as long as the school was there. School's not there, now the school district gives it to the village. I mean, there's a lot of things here. Sometimes you have to make decisions that maybe aren't the happiest for everybody. But I think that this is the use that'll make the house work for the community. And as long as I'm here, it's gonna be run right. I mean, you can follow my track record, everything I've ever done. You gave me awards for the old bowling alley when I redid it on Rawls Street. But I'm pleading to you, please pass it. We will run it right. You'll be proud of what it is. I mean, the thing's been finished on the outside for almost 2 years, and it's been maintained. It still looks good. Everybody keeps saying nice things about it. So please give us a hand and make this, pass this, okay? Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. No one else is getting up, so I am going to close the public hearing. We will now start our regular meeting. We'll start off with the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, could we get a roll call, Sarah?
Yep. Fowler? Here. Grandstaff?
Here.
Hale?
Here.
Hall?
Here.
Minton?
Here.
Bill Parker? Justin Parker?
Present.
Mellon?
Here.
Webb?
Here.
Okay, could I have a approval of the agenda?
Make a motion to approve the agenda for May 1st, 2025.
Second. Can I have a second? Mr. Webb, second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Approval of the meeting minutes from last month.
I have a couple of corrections to that. On the second page, my name's not spelled right.
so
We'll-
just a
we'll
correction
make
to my
the
name spelling.
change,
And
okay?
I've talked to Sarah about it
All
already,
right.
so. She's aware of it, but other than that, I would make the motion to approve.
All
the
right.
amendment.
Support.
All right. You got that?
I did,
All
thank
right.
you.
May I have a roll call?
Grandstaff,
Yes.
Justin Parker,
Yes.
Hall,
Yes.
Minton,
Yes.
Mellon,
Yes.
Fowler,
Yes.
Hale,
Yes.
Webb,
Yeah.
All right. Next item on the agenda is public forum. Or have we pretty well talked it out here?
Or if there's anything else on the agenda anyone would like to speak of.
What?
If there's anything else on the agenda besides what we just had the public hearing for, that anyone would like to speak about.
All right. Then, Justin, do you have a report for us?
I do not this month.
You do not, all right. We are going to start new business then. It will be the special land use of 273 Chandler. Karen, if you would.
So tonight we have a special land use review for 273 Chandler Street. This is located in the R1 district, and they are requesting the special land use of a bed and breakfast. This would take place in an existing residential structure on Chandler Street. The site is approximately 1.58 or 53 acres in area. It contains a main residence, carriage house, and a pavilion. 9 individual suites and a manager's area are shown on the main residence floor plans, as well as various lounging, dining, entertaining areas, and mechanical rooms. The carriage house floor plan shows dining, kitchen, and lounging areas. 16 parking spaces have been provided on site. Section 46-154 provides the area height and placement requirements. The principal structure and carriage house meet the setback requirements of the district. Lot coverage and building height have not been provided, though any deviation from these standards would be considered an existing nonconformity, including the shed within the setback. Bed and breakfast establishments are subject to the following. Item number 1, the rooms utilized for lodging purposes shall be part of the primary residential use and shall not have been specifically constructed for rental purposes. In communications received by Linnell and Associates, the applicant confirms that there will be a primary resident. Item number 2, there shall be no separate cooking facilities used for the bed and breakfast rooms. The standard is met. Item number 3, the residence shall be occupied at all times. The applicant should confirm that the standard will be met. Item number 4, sufficient off-street parking has been provided to meet the requirements of the existing single-family structure as specified in section 46-613, as well as 1 parking space per double occupied room. At the time of this review, there was not any dimensions provided on the parking area. The applicant has since updated that parking spaces are either 9 or 9.5 feet wide by 20 feet in length. And they've exceeded the required amount of spaces for this use, therefore the parking standard has been met. Signage shall comply with the requirements of section 46-578. No signage has been proposed at this time. This would be a separate administrative review. Item number 6, adequate lavatory, bathing facilities, and kitchen facilities for lodging rooms shall be provided as per the requirements of the county health department or other appropriate regulatory agencies. The applicant has confirmed in communications their intention to comply with regulatory agencies. In addition to section 46-653 of the Romeo zoning ordinance specifies a total of 8 standards that must be met to grant a special land use approval. I would recommend approval of the bed and breakfast upon the applicant being able to confirm that there will be, the residents will be occupied full-time, and that the planning commission believes that it meets the criteria for special land use. In deciding whether to approve or deny the request, the planning commission must evaluate each of the above referenced applicable standards. Any motion should expressly detail the reasons for such action. If the planning commission decides to approve the special land use request, all other applicable provisions of the Village of Romeo Code of Ordinances, including but not limited to fire safety and building and the Macomb County Health Department regulations also must be met. As someone stated before, since this is a special land use, the planning commission does have the authority to place reasonable conditions if they were to approve it. The planning commission also has the authority to request for additional information if that would help them aid in their decision-making process. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have questions.
All right.
Let's start with my list. I just want to confirm special land use. It runs with the land, that's correct. So once it's granted, for, like in this case, if this was granted here, it would forever be a bed and breakfast, even if it transfers ownership, unless it ceases to.
So you, Mark can correct me, but you can place conditions on that that could alter the course of that. But in theory, yes, if you were to grant it as a special land use, if Mr. Wells were to sell it to someone else who was gonna operate it in the same manner, then yes, it could continue as a special land use. If you guys place any conditions on it, those conditions would have to continue unless the applicant were to come back and request a change of those conditions. So the special land use remains until, as long as the business is in use. If it were to fall out of use and discontinue, and let's say 2 years later, someone else wants to run a bed and breakfast, they probably have to go through the special land use process once again.
Okay. Then I have a question. I've got a list of questions. I'll try not to. On the plans, the carriage house, I don't know if you want to speak to that, Dale. I don't see anything on here as far as what the carriage house, is that just used for storage, or is that, because the last page of the drawing has, I see the pavilion on there, but I don't see what, the reason I asked is I have, I think I read somewhere in one of the documents, there was something that said that there would be use of, the carriage house would have, does it have lavatories in it, or it's, no, there's nothing in it?
No, just storage.
It has a kitchen, a pizza bar.
I think that's the pavilion, that's
Is it the
this,
pavilion?
that's, yeah,
Okay.
that's this piece here.
So the carriage house is just
So the
storage.
carriage house just,
Just storage, right?
okay. And you own this property since 2007, is that correct? Okay, thanks, I just, it is close. And, let's see, what else do we have here? Then my next question would be, because I know in our bed and breakfast, in our ordinance book here, that item A, and it's one on the sheets that we have, but it's A than the actual apartment zoning book, where it says that the rooms utilized for lodging purposes shall be part of the primary residential use, shall not have been specifically constructed for rental purposes. I think my question there is, and my concern is, so that second floor of the residence, the way that it would get built out is you're looking at putting in the suites, which each one has a bathroom. So that's, none of that is existing as it is now, right? There's no.
It had to be removed because of condition presented.
Okay, so then I guess, I don't.
Only plumbing, only
Right.
heating, only electric.
Then that brings me back to that, so then is that, I don't know if that's a question for, legal, or if that's a question for our planner, is that then constructing them for rental purposes? If there's not currently bathrooms in every bedroom suite on that second floor,
If I may speak on that, just take a bed and breakfast in existence, and they came in and remodeled it, an update, would that change its special land use? No. This is it's a residential home, it could be resold as a residential home. If this doesn't work, that's what it would have to be. If the people didn't come to it, no one rented it, it would turn into a residential home. The people that are living there would be the people living there. This has to be done, and construction is, if you read that definition that the lady read, is really building construction. The remodeling of it is not construction. It is a description of construction, but it's really a remodeling of a home.
I guess, I could just give some pushback on that. If we're talking about a 10-bedroom house and everyone's got a bathroom, an R1 residential single-family home isn't gonna have 10 bathrooms in it. I mean, to me, that's not.
Today, a 9,000 square foot house does.
Well, I guess the question too is for Karen, specific Karen, and maybe it is for Mark also, like Jenny's saying. This doesn't exist. It's almost like it needs to be built and then come to us to get this SLU. It doesn't need to be, if you approve it, I'll build it. That's not the case. That's not how this is designed. It's designed that we have a residential home, someone wants to make a bed and breakfast out of it. Not, I have a residential home, I wanna build it out to be a bed and breakfast, is the way I'm reading this ordinance, and I think that's the way you're reading the ordinance.
Yeah.
It's almost as if you had already built it and came here, then you'd be meeting the requirements. But now you're gonna build it out, and also with the pavilion, we have a separate kitchen and a separate bar, right? So now we have a pavilion that has separate cooking space. So the argument there could be, well, the chef's gonna make pizza and the chef's gonna make and grill. I mean, we're just going round and round, but as soon as someone who's staying there touches the grill or touches the pizza oven out there when they're at the bar, I think we're in violation of what a bed and breakfast is, right?
I've done a tremendous amount of research on the health department, the state of Michigan, on the bathrooms and the kitchen. Bed and breakfast, they don't have anything to do with, none whatsoever. No inspections, no descriptions, and we have the law on that. The house is being built as a residence, and if the reason it isn't built out already is because if you wanted it, you'd want it one way. If you wanted it, you'd want it another way. It depends on how many kids you have and so on, you build a house. This, we save the structure, and it's all brand new, all the inspections have been made, all ready to be rebuilt. Floors have to be taken out, steel beams put in, they say they don't build them like they used to, below. We build things better today. The steel that had to be put into that house to save it it's actually a feat to do what we did there. There's a huge truss on the third floor to hold that house together, which it was ready to fall down. And it's all been inspected, engineers given their write-off, architects, so now it's a matter of finishing it in a fashion that is, that works for the residents that's living there.
So in your own words, it's a matter of constructing it, how it's gonna end up. And ultimately, it's gonna end up a bed and breakfast with 10 suites.
Could you read that standard or in the ordinance, how it was stated one more time?
Okay, it's for the bed and breakfast establishments. I think in, our planners in Karen's packet, it's item 1 on page 3 of hers. In our zoning book, though, it's 1A. It says, the rooms utilized for lodging purposes shall be part of the primary residential use and shall not have been specifically constructed for rental purposes.
Mark Clark, would you be willing to comment on that if, and how you feel? Mark is our village attorney. It doesn't say the structure. It clearly says the lodging rooms being constructed for that purpose. Can you give your opinion on that?
I can. Not all ordinances or statutes or things that are reduced to writing that regulate all our lives are written with the best clarity and specificity. So let's start there. I think if the commission, which you can, because I'm going to go back a half a step, and certainly Mr. Linnell can weigh in on anything that I say to you, but your decision is discretionary. If you look at the first part of the ordinance that Mrs. Fowler mentioned, the following uses and others similar to those cited in this division, 46-153, may be permitted by the Planning Commission. So it's permissive. And the reason I start there is I don't want to say I will discourage you, but I would ask you to exercise caution about trying to parse certain words out of certain provisions and certain provisions out of the ordinance generally. And so if you read the ordinance, the provision that Mrs. Fowler mentioned, the rooms utilized for lodging purposes shall be part of the primary residential use. You start there. So if these rooms are going to be part of the primary residential use, Mr. Wells may get a family in there, he may move in there himself, I don't know, but obviously it's got to be a primary residential use. I have no quarrel with that, and I think that's really important. So you get a primary residential use, somebody's in there, and now you want to have a bed and breakfast, but you can't dress up the rooms, you can't finish the rooms, because if you do, you're disqualified from being a bed and breakfast. I think that's a little tortured in the reading, and I think it should be read as a whole. So that if you had somebody that was primarily in there and they want to utilize the entire living space, all 10 rooms, and have this great kitchen and all of that, but they think, we need, it would be nice if we had 11 rooms. So let's add a room on to what we have. I would say, no, you can't do that. I would say that would violate that provision. But I do think you have to read the provisions in their entirety and apply the law to the facts that you have before you. And so I don't find the fact that Mr. Wells wants to finish the house, I don't find that as disqualifying. And again, as Ms. Laverne said, there are conditions you can impose. I would recommend to you that you look at the ordinances because there are two applicable provisions. You've been focusing appropriately so on 46-153. Now, if any of those aren't met, in your opinion, your judgment, it's discretionary. If they're not met, then you don't need to go to the special land use provisions generally, because the way that ordinance, the special land use in the residential, this is specific to the neighborhood in which the property is, single-family residential. It may be permitted, I know I'm repeating myself, but discretion is important, may be permitted by the Planning Commission in the R1 single family, that's what you have, residential district, subject to the general standards of Article 9 of this chapter, which is your, you've got a lawyer in distress. If you look at Article 9, it starts with section 46-651. So my recommendation is to the analysis, you look and see if the 6 standards are met. Ms. Lavere's given you her opinion as to that, and you should rely on that. She's knowledgeable, and she's reviewed the plans submitted, so I think it's wholly appropriate. You go through those 6 items in 153, and if it meets those, then you look at the standards generally, which are set forth in 46-653. That was a much longer answer than you wanted, but the reason is because I again encourage you, don't take a word out of a sentence, don't take a sentence out of a provision. Read it in its entirety as to what was intended.
All right, so to go back to something you said.
You gonna pick a word?
I'm not gonna pick a word, I'm the part where you said dressing up a room, but these aren't rooms that are built, right? This isn't like, these aren't rooms that are built to dress up. This is something that's not there, this is a blank canvas. To say I'm gonna have this room and dress it up is one thing, to say I'm gonna put 10 rooms in this room would be another thing. It's just a question, right? That's not an unfair statement.
It's not.
So,
It's not an unfair
does it meet that's kind of our question, does it meet, they're constructing it to make that a rental space now?
But
Right.
that's your job, that's not mine.
Right.
I don't get, you know, if you wanna pay me the $75 a meeting, or whatever those big dollars are that you get, you got an empty chair there, I can come up there. It's really important to me that you don't make a decision because of something I say.
Right.
You should make a decision because you are the planning commission. I will give you advice, I will recommend as I've done. You can ignore my advice, you can say, gee, that sounds like a whole bunch of word salad and I'm not eating any more of it, and that's fine. But and so your interpretation and what you just said is wholly reasonable, absolutely.
If I could ask another question or point out another, you had stated, I think you said if there was 8 rooms currently and then they decided that we wanted a 9th room, or maybe it was 9 to 10 or 10 to 11, that, no, that wouldn't be okay.
No, I'm saying if you add it on, I'm not talking about inside the shell.
Exactly.
I mean,
Yeah.
the tension, and I don't mean tension like food, I mean
I
the
understand.
tension
Yeah.
in the analysis is, do you want somebody to improve their property or not? Do you want to encourage it or discourage it? And so, again, I know I'm repeating myself, but I encourage you to read it as a whole. So if what we're talking about is building out, if you will, a building that's 100 years old or whatever it is, I mean, I've been in Romeo long enough, I remember when it was the Hayden Farm, and I remember the guy that owned it and had a double-decker bus there, and had 40 cars. In fact, one of the cars would be in the ditch by Memorial Field and block the water from coming through the ditch to drain properly, and it'd end up in my backyard, because I live on West St. Clair. And so the point is, what do you want to permit? And if what you want to permit is within the ordinance, you can do so. If you don't want to permit it, it's your discretion. You don't have to. But I wouldn't want you to think, well, okay, we won't do it because he's gonna put the rooms in an existing structure that was a house, and he had rooms where people lived. People lived in there.
If I might add, and I really would just be echoing what Mr. Clark said with respect to construction, the idea that because something is being built, therefore it automatically violates the requirements or doesn't meet the requirements flies in the face of logic. Something is going to be built there. It's a house. And it was a house, although there was discussion about it being other uses, but people lived there. So the idea that there would be bedrooms built on a second floor where I guess we could do a historical research to see if there were bedrooms on the second floor ever, but I'm going to guess by the discussion that was taken earlier in the census is we could find out that, yes, people lived there, and if they lived there, they had to have bedrooms. And so are these bedrooms, as proposed, exactly what was there? Probably not. I don't know if anyone knows exactly what it was, but the idea that it would be held against my client for wanting to construct bedrooms on the second floor of what is a house within the framework and existing exterior seems to run afoul of the idea that this zoning does in fact permit, subject to a special land use, but does in fact permit a bed and breakfast.
I just have one more question.
My question would be regarding, fencing around the perimeter. I believe there's chain link, well, I know there's chain link because of the school, on the one side.
The two sides, the back trees from the school have fallen down, and the school hasn't maintained that fence. It's-
I guess my question would be, is that something in consideration of, if,
the
like
school-
privacy
the
fencing,
school-
or is there something that you would do, to put around that, for privacy
we were
purposes?
planning on it
Because I know you have
because
a pool area in the backyard, and I just,
The pool area is something that we would like to do. That's something that's gonna have to go in and have a building plan for it. It's not gonna be done now,
Right.
you know, and the fence in the back, the trees keep falling from the other side. I cleared the trees out on my property side. The other side, trees are falling from the schoolyard. They're not taking care of it. You know, I mean, there's a square ditch they dug back there to get rid of the water because it was flooding out my house and the house to the south. I mean, the whole yards were being flooded because the school wasn't maintaining the drain. I don't know where that drain goes. I've walked it all the way and it has no outlet. So it's just moving it down towards St. Clair.
I would suggest to you that if that was a condition for approval, certainly that would be acceptable.
All right,
that's all my questions. Thank
they're
you.
all your questions.
So, and I would just add that and I believe it's been made clear by my client. By the way, my name is Richard Linnell, address 2804 Orchard Lake Road, Suite 203, Kego Harbor, Keego Harbor, Michigan, 48320. The pool that's identified is what might be referred to as an aspiration. It is not constructed, and as Mr. Wells said, if there was a point in time at which point that was desired, it would require approval to do so.
So when we approve the SLU, do we approve the site plan too, Karen?
Correct.
So having things on, going back to aspirations, we have things on the site plan that would be approved, like we just talked about the pool, right?
Yeah, I don't know what the building code provisions are for pools. I imagine they may be treated as accessory buildings. There are still permits that need to be pulled for those items. But, the first step for that would be site plan approval, so.
So if a pool is ever constructed and we have a pavilion, we have multiple bars, my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, Karen or Mark, I guess, a bed and breakfast is to provide the lodging and meals, right? No additional stuff past that, right? That becomes more commercial, more of a business, more of a hotel. I've never seen a bed and breakfast where would have a pool available for its guests, an outdoor pavilion where they can go out and cook. And it seems like you're getting past a bed and breakfast and stepping into something else.
If I may,
I was asking
Oh, okay.
our planner if she could.
From what I've researched, I believe in order to qualify for a bed and breakfast, you have to follow certain state provisions such as the limited amount of bedrooms you're allowed to utilize, how someone does need to be there, or there needs to be a full-time resident at the house. And that your charge to your customer includes the lodging and all food.
Meals, yes.
All meals.
Yes.
And you can have multiple meals, you can have one meal. I believe in some communications we have right now, just a continental breakfast is proposed at the moment with the licensure for the kitchen that they're looking at the moment. So that has been communicated to the village. But we have all these separate cooking facilities. If there's gonna be a primary resident, if the primary resident has access to these things as well, and maybe that is an enhancement to, I mean, I can't speak for Mr. Wells's business plan, but those might be questions you might wanna ask him. What are all these facilities for? Who are they gonna use, who's gonna use them? Because there is gonna be a primary resident there.
primary residence definitely there. And that's to, you know, manage the site, making sure that things are run properly. The breakfast is very simple. It's not baked and cooked and like you're thinking of. The law for a bed and breakfast is very simple. You know, you got yogurt that you peel open. You've been to some places where you stay that they have a breakfast, you know, and they get pancakes and so on. They're all pre-frozen. Can't do that. This is a very simple breakfast. And because that's where this commercial kitchen is not necessary. The outside, my interpretation of it, and this might not fly, we're not proposing to build the outside pavilion, because the outside pavilion would be done at the same time that the pool is done. And it's a place that is really as much for the residents, for someone to live there and be able to live like you do in your house. You got a barbecue outside, you swim in your swimming pool, and then the guests can come out there and swim in the pool. But that situation is not what we're asking for. We have to come back to get that built. That's right now just a foundation with a deck on it, the pavilion area.
Like Karen said, we're approving the site plan, and that's what I'd propose as a site plan, right?
The special land use approval is a site plan approval with all this special criteria. That's what the special land use process is. So it's not just the use, it's also the site plan.
So we would be happy to entertain a motion for approval, not to be presumptuous or move you along, but if it was contained in a motion that said that these aspirational things, in particular the pavilion and the pool, would require that we come back, as Mr. Wells has already said, we understand that we're anticipating that regardless, if he was fortunate enough to be approved. And also, it's been said a couple times, but I just want to make sure it's clearly understood, because it was a question raised in the review letter, that the manager would be living on site. That would be where they live. And I know that question, or at least a request was made to confirm that, and so I want to make sure that I confirm that.
It will be their primary residence.
Yes.
Okay, I am going to read the standards.
Are we done with, I think. I've got nothing. Oh, I thought you wanted to say something. I thought this should be motion.
I'm going to read the standards for the special land use. And I need for each member to give a yes or a no. Item number 1, the proposed special land use shall be of such location, size, and character that it will be in harmony with the appropriate and orderly development of surrounding neighborhood and/or vicinity and applicable regulations of the zoning district in which it is located. May I get a yes or a no from each?
Would you like me to do a roll call for that?
Yeas and nays? You want yeas and nays, or do you want a roll call?
Roll call?
Do a roll call.
Grandstaff,
Yes.
Hall,
Yes.
Webb,
Yes.
Justin Parker,
No.
Bill Parker, no, he's not here. Minton,
No.
Hale,
No.
Mellon,
Yes.
Fowler,
No.
Number 2, the proposed use shall be of a nature that will make vehicular and pedestrian traffic no more hazardous than is normal for the district involved, taking into consideration vehicular turning movements in relation to routes of traffic flow, proximity, and relationship to intersections, adequacy of site distance, location, and access of off-street parking, and provisions of pedestrian traffic, with particular attention to minimizing child vehicular interface. I'm sorry, I forgot my glasses tonight.
Mellon,
Yes.
Webb,
Yes.
Justin Parker,
No.
Hale,
Yes.
Hall,
Yes.
Fowler,
Yes.
Grandstaff,
Yes?
Minton,
No.
The proposed use shall be designed as to the location, size, intensity, site layout, and periods of operation of any such proposed use to eliminate any possible nuisance emanating from which might be noxious to the occupants of any other nearby use, permitted uses, whether by reason of dust, noise, fumes, vibration, smoke, or lights.
Hall,
Yes.
Hale,
Yes.
Minton,
Yes.
Fowler,
Yes.
Grandstaff,
Yes?
Mellon,
Yes.
Webb,
Yes.
Justin Parker,
Yes.
The proposed use shall be such that the proposed location and height of buildings or structures and locations, nature and height of walls, fences, landscaping will not interfere with or discourage an appropriate development and use of adjacent land and buildings or unreasonable affect their value.
Is that everything before? Okay. Webb,
Yes.
Grandstaff,
Yes?
Hale,
Yes.
Minton,
No.
Fowler,
Yes.
Mellon,
Yes.
Justin Parker,
No.
Hall,
Yes.
The proposed use shall relate harmoniously with the physical and economic aspects of adjacent land uses as regards to prevailing shopping habits, convenient of access by prospective patrons, continue to that word, of development and need for particular services and facilities in the specific area of the village.
Hall,
Yes.
Hale,
Yes.
Minton,
No.
Webb,
Yes.
Fowler,
Yes.
Grandstaff,
Yes?
Justin Parker,
No.
Mellon,
Yes.
The proposed use is necessary for the public convenience at the proposed location.
Webb,
Yes.
Mellon,
Yes.
Hall,
Yes.
Minton,
No.
Fowler,
No.
Hale,
Yes.
Justin Parker,
No.
Grandstaff, I'm sorry.
Yes. Number 7, the proposed use is designed, located, planned, and to be operated that that the public health, safety, and welfare will be protected.
Fowler,
Yes.
Minton,
Yes.
Webb,
Yes.
Grandstaff,
Yes?
Justin Parker,
Yes.
Mellon,
Yes.
Hale,
Yes.
Hall.
Yes.
Number 8, the proposed use shall not be detrimental or injurious to the neighborhood within which it is to be located, nor shall such use operate as a deterrent to future land uses permitted within said zoning district, and shall be in harmony with the general purpose of intent of the zoning ordinance.
Hale,
No.
Fowler,
No.
Grandstaff,
Yes?
Hall,
Yes.
Mellon,
Yes.
Webb,
Yes.
Justin Parker,
No.
Minton.
No.
Would you like a final read
Yes.
of all of them? Okay, so for number 1, 4 were in favor, 4 were opposed. Number 2, 6 were in favor, 2 were opposed. Number 3, all were in favor, no one was opposed. Number 4, 6 were in favor, 2 were opposed. Number 5, 6 were in favor, 2 were opposed. Number 6, 5 were in favor, 3 were opposed. And number 7, all were in favor, 0 were opposed. And number 8, 4 were in favor, 4 were opposed.
I am of the opinion that it passed.
No.
No. Two of them didn't pass.
Well,
Two standards did not.
Number 1 and number 8 did not pass.
Well, number 1 and number 8 were ties.
Which is
So I don't
correct me
know.
wrong, Mr. Clark, a tie is a fail.
Tie goes to the winner. The 4 to 4, generally speaking, if it's made in a motion, you move, somebody moves to have a result achieved, and if you don't get a majority vote, the motion fails. Now, what you're gonna have to wrestle with, you didn't really do this in the form of a motion. You went through these standards, which you need to do, that's what you're required to do. So now you go to the next part of it, at least this is gonna be my recommendation. You go to the next part of it, section 46-654, which speaks to approval. If the planning commission determines that the particular special land use should be allowed, and you say why, somebody makes a motion to allow it, or somebody makes a motion to deny it, however that goes, on the board, and so that's the next step. You have to go through those 8 items, which you did, but it's not, you don't have, it wasn't in the form of a motion, so I'm hesitant to say that they fail. And I realize this is doublespeak, but they didn't pass, but they didn't fail. You have a standoff, if you will, on those 2 items. So then if you look at the following charge in the ordinance, whether the loggerheads as to those 2 items, if you feel that should militate towards denying it. That's again a decision that you're gonna have to make based on what's presented. The other thing that troubles me, and I'll mention this because it needs to be mentioned at the front end, as opposed to Mr. Linnell and I going in front of a Macomb County Circuit Court judge. So I'll just say this. At the outset, the introductory paragraph to section 46-653, those 8 items that you just went through, it says, in considering all applications for special land use, the planning commission shall review each case individually as to its appropriateness, which I think you've done. The presentations have been made, public comments have been made, you've been provided with site plans and other documents that inform your decision. So I think you've done that. The planning commission shall review each case individually as to its appropriateness and must find affirmatively to each of the following standards. So that circles back to the question about what's the legal effect of a 4-4 vote. Even though it wasn't technically a vote, it was a straw poll or trying to see if there was a consensus or whatever it might be, but you don't have an affirmation, an affirmative finding as to 2 of those items.
Okay. So I will make a motion that the special land use be accepted.
All 8 were accepted, all 8 were good, 2 were bad. The ordinance says all 8 have to be,
Richard, please.
I've made a motion, is there a second?
No second?
No second.
Okay.
So what are you going to do?
I'll make a motion to deny the SLU based on not meeting standard 1 and 8 of the 8 standards we read off.
Is there a second?
I'll support.
Roll call?
What? Yeah, can we please? Webb?
Yes.
Can you
Hold on.
read that back? I'm sorry. Can you read that back to us, please?
Yeah, the motion was made by Mitten, and it was a motion to deny the bed and breakfast.
Based on not meeting 1 and 8.
Thank you.
Okay. Webb?
Yes.
Fowler?
No.
Hall?
No.
Justin Parker?
Yes.
Hale?
No.
Minton?
Yes.
Grandstaff?
Yes.
Mellon?
No.
Four.
4-4? Yep.
Yeah.
Again, 4-4?
Yeah, 4 yeses and 4 nos.
No.
Mr. Counsel?
Motion fails.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can get affirmed.
Can you give me a moment? We would request that the matter be tabled to the next meeting, and that this application be reconsidered at that time.
Is there gonna be changes?
I just had a brief discussion with my client, but we would ask that we be able to go to the next meeting, and if changes, then we'll follow, of course, the protocol for application, which could mean that we're not on the next agenda, could mean we're on 2 agendas from now.
Make the motion to table the SLU for this meeting to be considered next meeting.
Yes, with just I said it out loud,
You
but
made a motion, we're looking for a second.
I'll second that motion.
Grant staff made the motion.
I'll second it.
Okay.
Discussion, I would just question if there's gonna be no change. I feel we should just handle this tonight. I mean, if we've gotta make this happen, we make this happen one way or the other tonight. If there's gonna be no proposed change, and if there is, like you said, it's gonna have to go through an application, go back out for another public hearing, and it's gonna be readdressed separately.
As I said, there may be changes. This is not, I don't have the time to have that sort of discussion with my client, but we appreciate the effort that's been put forth. But in light of the fact that no motion is passed, it seems appropriate that it be tabled to allow my client to consider what's been said and possibly appear at the next agenda with the same exact application for further discussion, potentially, or to make changes. But I don't think my client should be compelled to make a determination as to whether he will or will not be making changes.
Okay, I've made a motion. Do I have a second for that?
Yeah, second from Paul.
All right. Could I have a vote on that?
Yes. Grant staff,
Yes.
Justin Parker,
No.
Hale,
Yes.
Minton,
No.
Fowler,
Yes.
Hall,
Yes.
Webb,
Yes.
Mellon,
Yes.
Can you clarify it for the audience? Did it fail?
No, the motion failed. The motion was made to deny by Mitt. It was a 4-4. Motion fails. Motion fails, not this, not the SLU.
So now
And
it's
then we just
tabled for a
motioned to table to next month.
Thank you for your time this evening.
Okay. Next item is we'll give people a chance to,
Motion to take a 5-minute recess.
Second.
All in favor?
Do I need to write that down?
Yeah, motion to take a 5-minute recess.
Okay.
for 316 East Washington. Karen?
This is a site plan review for property IDs 2804, 02, 205, 010, 2804, 02, 205, 011, 2804, 02, 205, 012. This is a site plan review. The applicant is requesting to construct 2 duplexes on a property that is currently in the process of being combined.
It's already combined.
Okay. The original proposed plan for the construction of 3 duplexes on a single parcel was approved by the Planning Commission in 2021. One of those duplexes was constructed. The parcel was then subsequently divided into 3 separate parcels. The applicant would like to resume construction of the remaining 2 duplexes according to plan. However, due to the split and the lapse of time, Planning Commission review is once again required. The applicant has combined the 3 lots back into a single parcel in order to meet the setback requirements of the RM district. My only 2 concerns were, at least in the information that I got, it was unclear what the height was of the structure. Maximum height is 30 feet or 2 stories. I just didn't have that information, and a lighting plan wasn't provided. But I do recommend approval of the site plan contingent upon the land being combined, which the applicant has confirmed. Confirming the building height in compliance with the zoning ordinance, confirming a lighting plan in compliance with the zoning ordinance, and compliance with all engineering and building permitting requirements.
All right, do we have questions, comments?
Nope.
Just gonna build the same house twice more, right? You're just gonna build the same duplex twice more, right?
And you brought this is what we saw at council,
Yes,
that we combined the lots so that you could have proper setbacks.
yes.
Yeah.
That was kind of a mistake that we got separated. It was
Yeah.
done for a reason to get 3 addresses, and it should have happened. I was naive in asking for it, and I believe the village might play a role into letting it happen without realizing that it's gonna complicate.
Setbacks.
So we did get it completely combined together with the help of the board, and it went through the county around and decided to go parcel ID. I do have one quick question to you all in regards to that. The whole reason that it was split originally was to get 3 separate addresses. In my mind, that made sense because having one address with 3 separate buildings would complicate things for the guests and the tenants of the building. We gave up on that when we were asked to combine it. Just in conversation with the assessor at Washington Township, she said she has absolutely no problem with having 3 separate addresses with one parcel ID.
Absolutely.
Does anybody object to that? Or is that something I can do, or if not, I'll leave it alone, I'm afraid to stir the pot.
Problem with that is as soon as you make it 3 separate properties, you can't make it 1 condo. Doesn't work like that.
She said you could assign 3 addresses on 1 parcel though.
Somebody in Washington told you that?
The assessor, yes. No.
Not gonna happen.
Okay, done.
You got side yard setbacks to deal with. You make those property lines, now you're only 7.5 feet off the property line. And I am not the expert on the zoning, I can tell you that.
So there'd be one address with multiple suites then?
No, they could all have their own separate address.
And then he just asked that.
That's what I'm asking.
But you can't have you can't do 3 lots.
No, he just asked if you could leave it as one, but have separate
One
addresses.
parcel, surround the whole thing, becomes 1 condo with unit 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Yes. You're not
That's-
asking to site condo these though, right?
That's a condo
No, right now
complex.
they're just 1 parcel.
Yeah, it's just basically a flat ground apartment.
No, it can be, I don't see any reason not to, but there's no need to redivide it back now.
No, he's
No,
not.
we're not, he's not asking.
Well, it's all drawn up that way, that's why.
Well, that's how it is, that's how it
Because
was.
it has 3 lots for the legal description, but it is 1 parcel, again, the way you guys want it.
Motion to approve site plan with the caveat that you meet the height restriction and light plan.
And the lighting. I'll support it.
Support.
Who supported?
I supported.
Parker.
It did say that it was not gonna be approved till next year, right? Isn't that what it said in the Washington letter? It's approved, but it won't be fully
It
recognized.
is approved already, they already signed the number, but until they do their tax rules, it doesn't become.
Right.
I won't get a tax bill.
It won't be an active parcel until next March.
Yeah, just in case something weird were to happen.
We had enough weirdness.
That's your
I just
own,
wanna
that,
go
the
through
onus
it.
is on, I'm just saying, that's, whenever they put that in the letter, I always look like, what weird thing could happen?
In effect, as soon as he got the sign off from the Village of Romeo, it was done. Now it's all paperwork follow-up. Ran that department, so I know that department.
Once a year.
That's all, I'm just, but weirder things have happened, right?
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. Can I get a vote, please?
Yep. Mellon,
Yes.
Grandstaff,
Yes?
Minton,
Yes.
Hale,
Yes.
Justin Parker,
Yes.
Hall,
Yes.
Fowler,
Yes.
Webb.
Yes.
Thank you.
You are welcome, sir.
Go to work tomorrow.
Okay, we've got two more items we have
Thanks,
to
Frank.
do here. Mr. Parker feels we must officially vote to appoint.
I don't know if there was a vote needed. Bill, I don't know if we requested a vote because the vote had already happened. There was no acceptance of that position because the person voted was not present.
Point of order. You have to follow the order, parliamentary procedural order of that. So there has to be a nomination and the nomination has to be accepted. All members not voting is not a qualification. It's if it is not accepted, that it is null and void. Ms. Fowler wasn't here to accept, therefore, that vote should have never went forward because it's just invalid. She wasn't here to accept any kind of nomination.
Okay. I make a motion to appoint Janice Fowler to vice chair.
Point of order, you can't just jump into a motion either. You have to nominate, have discussion on nominations, and then you make a motion.
I nominate Janice Fowler as vice chair.
Second.
Do you accept
Sure we're good.
the nomination?
Discussion?
Any discussion before?
Discussion?
Any
No discussion? Anyone?
Yes, I will accept.
All right.
Now you can do it, right?
Any other nominations?
Based on the exception of the nomination,
Not close the nominations.
I would like to make a motion
To close nominations.
to close nominations.
Second. Doing it right.
All in favor?
Oh, it's you, Bill.
All those in favor, please.
Aye.
Opposed?
Very good.
Okay, now.
I'd like to make a motion, based on the acceptance of the nomination,
Let
to
'em do it.
appoint
Let him do it.
Janice Fowler to vice chair for the remainder of the term.
Till June? All right,
kinda
we have one more situation. She was the secretary.
Well, that's not on the agenda.
Made a motion.
We gotta do
Second.
something.
Justin's motion.
Are you going to leave the secretary position blank?
It should have been added to the agenda then. We'll have to add it to next month for June, and then we're gonna revote anyways in June on everything, aren't we?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I love
So it's gonna be open for the remainder of the month.
All right. I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
No, no,
We
we
have-
gotta vote.
Got to vote on the nomination.
Justin has an open motion.
We have a motion and a second.
I didn't hear.
I'm
a
sorry,
second.
who's second?
Brian Minton.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, so I do need hearing aids, but let's,
Bill,
oh, wait, my wife can hear this.
Bill, call it all in favor.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay.
Before we do adjourn, can we discuss
Need a
things
roll?
that are on the agenda that we've already passed?
Yeah, well, yes, and no, I mean, you can't,
Can't vote on it.
I mean, you've already voted on it, I guess.
We've already voted.
You can still discuss them. The only thing that is required through that is that you can't, work towards a decision, but you already had a decision.
No decision to be made. I just had questions, which I didn't get a chance to bring up because we tabled the item. But the special land use,
I would suggest if you're gonna talk about daily, don't, because.
I'm
it's
asking a
daily.
question about application.
Oh, yeah.
Who received the application?
What do you mean, like in the
Who
office?
received this personally in the office?
So me and Cindy would have
Okay.
received it.
It was not dated received for what we got. So it's not on there.
Yeah.
And then also point out the fact that what was posted online did not have the notary on it. So what was posted online was different than what we had in our packet. What was given to residents when requested was different than what we got in our packet. The special hearing was called beginning of March.
It was, as soon as the application came in, I was away at conference. I approved the, notice to go out, so it would have been in the middle of March, around sometime, I'd have to look at the dates that I was at conference, but it was while I was at conference.
Yeah, when I look back at the dates, it appeared that, I feel that the public hearing was scheduled prior to this even being notarized.
Again, I was out of town when that came in.
Yeah, I understand, you're the procedure guy, right?
No,
You like to keep everything in line,
100%.
and then when residents came to Village Hall to review documents, they were denied.
That is not true. So.
They were told to FOIA,
No,
and
it's
then,
not true.
and then they were instructed that the documents were just received.
Okay, I'll talk on this, sir.
Could you please?
You're speaking ill-informed, and so what happened was, when it first came in, and I spoke to the resident that you're talking about, and we had a long talk for 2 hours on Friday. So, when documents first came in, it was requested that they be able to be reviewed. I was away, I provided what documents we did have, which was the site plan. That site plan changed. When he came in again, they had been kicked back because there were some questions about them. The application still stands, but the packet, his submission got kicked back to him. So when he came in asking for documents, he was told, we do not have them. He demanded, he was then told, if you want a FOIA, you can. When I spoke to him, he wanted more documents, and when he spoke to Cindy and them, he wanted documents, and they had just come in, again, the day that the packet was due to be presented to you guys, sent out to you guys, and that is a long-standing procedure within the village. I'm not gonna talk about whether or not I agree with it.
Well,
But-
my argument with that, Jamie, is that if we didn't, the village did not receive the final stuff until the day it was going into the packet, how does the public have? There's a reason, there's a length of time that needs to be posted.
I understand.
The residents did not have the ample amount of time to review the documents as they should have.
I would argue that's not true, because.
You didn't receive them till the day they came in the packet.
Exactly, but that was Thursday last week. This is Thursday this week. They had a full week to still, that's all it says. You have the right to come in and review the documents. Now, we can get into the nitty-gritty of it, is that ample time? I'm not gonna speak on that. I may be inclined to agree with you there, but it is the policy of the village that it can come in up to the day that the packages are being put together to be sent out to you guys.
I find that crazy because as a trustee, I can't submit something the day our packets go out.
So it's attached to the original date that
Right?
the
And
application
correct me if
came
I'm wrong,
in.
when this comes in, isn't it supposed to be complete? When an application is submitted, it's supposed to be complete. That applicant's also supposed to provide in writing fully how they meet all those standards. Which clearly, even in some of the language that our planner wrote, said they needed to provide that yet. So
Right.
if we're not getting stuff to the Thursday, how does our planner have time to write it and still get it in our packet?
Karen, would you like to speak to that?
So, I totally am on board with people turning in stuff on time, so everyone has time to review and do the reviews. Applicants are allowed to submit new information up until the meeting. They can do that. No one likes it, but it's true they can do that. And, you know, people of the village, they need to make judgments. Is the application complete enough where we can get the process going? And this is something that all communities face. This isn't just a Romeo thing. All communities are trying to figure this out. What's the best thing to get stuff moving forward? I would say that what we got to send the public notices out, I think that was sufficient to do. You know, it's difficult getting all this stuff. This is something that all communities face, that all communities are concerned about. As a planner, you know, sometimes I send a review and then suddenly packets go out and then suddenly all the new information that answer the questions, they come in great, but then we still have this old review. Or they do make a change that suddenly goes against a lot of what we were talking about and the intent of the review in the first place. So these things happen all the time. It's tough. I don't know what all the internal policies of the village are, but, you know, there are judgment calls. Did they submit enough information to get this process going? They submitted a site plan, they submitted their application. It looks like they submitted the legal documents that they needed to get to that point. Again, I'm not at the desk at the village, so I don't exactly know how everything goes, but, you know, I guess you have to go on the opposite side of someone, if you're on the applicant side and you feel like, well, I did tick all those boxes, and you still didn't, I'm still not on the agenda of what's going on, you know, so we kind of have to figure out how to do this, but the timing issue, it's an issue for everyone, everywhere. It's tough.
It's crazy.
Yeah, and I don't disagree that timing, like, that window is cutting it close. I can sympathize with that because, yes, I can see where you might consider that you're not having time to review it, but you do. You had the week. Granted, if it doesn't align with everything someone might have going on in their lives, I get it. And I get your comparison with the trustees, that you guys have a drop dead date and it's a couple of days before we put the packets together.
Tuesday, yeah.
Yeah, I don't disagree that might be a policy that we need to look at to rectify in order to ensure that we have everything in place. But like I said, this has been a policy that is longstanding in this village, that the packet comes in, it's complete, and if it has to get kicked back out, it needs to be allowed to evolve into what it needs to be based on recommendations. So again, when someone comes in and asks for something, I can't give them what I don't have.
I understand what
And
you're saying.
then
And I was
also,
unaware
I
that our
can't,
policy extended that time to the day of meeting even.
Yeah.
I was unaware of that.
Yeah, yeah, and that's-
I disagree with, I don't like it.
I mean,
No.
even at a meeting, people can change, they can, you know, change stuff on a part of their site plan. They're allowed to do that at a meeting. Like, it's tough.
I mean, I
Sometimes things
understand, but
complicated,
I feel there's a reason that it asks for the standards to be explained by the applicant in writing, right? It's their written word that they're providing that's being notarized and submitted with an application, because we can all say this and this and that, and if it doesn't get recorded exactly correctly, things can be twisted. right? So there's a reason that I feel that process is in place, right? And if it's coming in that way, I feel it needs to come in that way. My last thing is this factual narrative that was included in the packet with the information for this topic, not as an additional. Where did that come from? Because there's no.
That came in the day of,
But
with the rest of the
it's
stuff.
not- I don't see anywhere where it's, who wrote this, right? Who
Right.
provided this? Where did this even come from? Right?
It's from the attorney, Linnell and Associates.
They provided this.
Yeah, I didn't know if I should have attached, like it was just like an email page with just like his logo, so that's why I brought it with me.
And then this was an attachment to that.
Yeah, that was the attachment included on the email.
Yeah, because, I mean, reading through that, I'm like, well, who even did this, right? Who put this in there and it's just randomly in a packet because it's not.
So this is a
so-
policy you're saying, so we can see
Yeah.
this policy? We can
Yeah,
read
well,
this?
I don't know if it's necessarily a written policy, but it's been an operating policy for the village for quite some time. That's how they, up to the day of the packets getting put together. And like I said, again, I can sympathize and I understand the need for maybe walking that back. But right now, that's kind of the operating policy of the village. And if we need to change it, we certainly can. But, you know, when people ask for things, even when we get a package in, if it hasn't been cataloged and we don't know what we have, I can't tell you I'm gonna give you something if I don't know what we have either. And there is a lot of trust on the building department to put it together, and I trust them, they do a good job. And if they
I
tell
just
me
think
they
that,
don't have,
I mean, in the future, maybe just include a printout of the cover of the
Yeah.
email so we know where
Will
it
do.
came from.
yeah, if it's not signed, absolutely, yes.
Yeah, that's, because I don't think I've ever seen anything just submitted in that someone didn't take ownership of that was put into a packet.
Mhm.
So, and I'm not trying to throw, I'm just, was like, where the heck did that come from? So, thank you for clarifying.
Yeah.
Can I make a comment?
Yes.
On the policy? I can tell you from experience, if I receive a packet, it immediately goes to the planner, it goes to department heads, everybody provides comment. Comment goes back to the applicant. If it does not meet the ordinance, if there are things that need to be corrected, it gets sent to the applicant. The applicant then has the opportunity to say, I'm going to correct that, can you move me to the next meeting? Or I'm going to correct that and provide you with revised plan. If we do not receive revised plans before the night of the meeting, before comments can be done, it automatically, would go through the public hearing, go through the entire public hearing, but there's no action.
Yeah. And it's my understanding, it's to the former of what you said. Things were kicked back and they were given an opportunity to fix the things that were identified and told you have to get that in by a drop dead date, which is the Thursday that your guys' packets are being put together to be sent to you.
And I can also say too that from experience, we hold a public hearing, but we do not act unless the board sets aside, suspends rules of procedure and moves forward with the motion that night. It prevents a lot of, it's not on there, we need this, bring that back.
Yeah, I mean, again, I am completely open to restructuring policies within this village because we have a lot of policies that, I mean, one of the things I spoke to the gentleman who had the issues, I said, you know, we have a number of ordinances that are written that are 30, 40 years old that we need to revisit. We have policies that are 30, 40, 50 years old. We need to address these things, but it's a slow-moving process, identifying what's critical right now, and what's critical right now may not be critical tomorrow, right? So in light of new information, something else might pop up that redirects your focus. So again, I don't necessarily disagree that maybe we should look at these policies and restructure them, and now we have the perfect opportunity with someone new to create new habits, absolutely. But again, it's about identifying what actually is wrong inside the system and taking steps to rectify that and hoping that nothing else pops up during that time.
Thank you for clarifying.
Yeah.
A lot of it was left unopened, and to both you, Karen, thank you also for explaining. On that, I will make a motion to what?
I was gonna ask,
Oh.
what is, you get into that, then you're getting into, what is the opportunity? 15, 21? How many days prior to meetings, we know that we're gonna get the packet a week before, so we all get 7 days. But do we make it mandatory for 15 days for every meeting?
Right.
Whether it be historic district commission, library, planning, zoning,
Well,
And
this,
I guess
this is, what I was referring to is for the special land use, because letters were sent out to their surrounding neighbors that said that they could come in and review documents.
Well,
So
that was
But-
required by law. They
But I
have to
think
send
it's
it within
also,
so many hundred feet.
it's worth noting that saying you can review documents, it is also implied in that statement, if we have them. So if it gets kicked back and there's nothing to
Understand,
review.
I think we've already beat that up. I did not know there was a
Yeah,
last minute deadline, so.
Yeah, again, it was not a denial without reason. We just didn't have the documents. So there's nothing to review.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
My back is killing me. It's been raining.
Motion to adjourn?
I've done that.
Gotta get a second.
Good.
Second.
Did
We've
Mitt
done that.
No, we didn't.
Thank you.
Yeah, we did.
No, we didn't.
I'm sorry. All in favor?
Aye.
Good, I'm gone.
Now we're done.